to the Muslim Street. This is our regularly scheduled hour here. It's 7:30 on a Sunday night. We're broadcasting and being produced from Ghana in West Africa. We're going to be in Africa on the Muslim Street coming up here over the next few weeks. I'll be on the Muslim Street in the African Maghreb for a couple of shows toward the end of the month, where we actually going to be in Morocco, and we're going to do some shows live from the street, talking to the Moroccan people about several issues, not only what's going on domestically, but as it relates to Africa, as it relates to the genocide in Palestine, and a whole bunch of other good stuff. So it's going to be great to be on the ground there. And we're going to ask Lance Scurv, who is produced by the Lance Scurv Show. You can find him over on YouTube at, of course, the Lance Scurv Show. And we'll ask Lance at some time to find himself up in the north of Ghana, in Kumasi, the home of the Ashanti, the Muslims, and possibly we can do some live broadcasting from there. So tonight, we got a great show on hand. Before I do some house cleaning, I want just kind of point out, you can find us at www.themuslimstreet.com. For our periodical on latest articles. And if you'd like to submit an article on issues that relates to what we're about, and we're about liberation. We're about the grassroots functions that's going on all over the Muslim street in the world. Okay, so you can submit an article, and if it's our theme, our narrative, just like any other platform, then we'll allow you some space on it. So tonight, we have a regular to the Muslim Street, Art Mobley of the Darfur 23. Tonight we'll be discussing, along with a guest from the African continent, the African youth movement around Panafricanism and the revolutions in the Sahel. This is a very important discussion. And one thing that separates the Muslim Street and our platform from others, this is not journalism, okay? This is not some TV production where we're looking for likes or thing. We're building a movement around liberation. That's the difference. So what you'll find is that the guests that we bring on and the topics that we bring on and that we tackle are all centered around how do we build a movement toward our liberation. And what is our liberation? And then we've talked about this, Art, from a Darfur 23 perspective as relates to Africa and the Middle East. We see a burgeoning collective that is re-emerging from the late 1950s, early 60s, where we see a true Pan-African, Pan-Arab front that will deal a final blow to Western hegemony and white supremacy. All right, so that's who we are, and we're not again looking for likes. This ain't TYT with Chink and Anna. Okay, this ain't no black CNN or some Muslim CNN. Well, we're gonna stay within our lanes. No, we're building a movement, and the ideas that come into the space, the revolutionaries that come into the space. We'll continue to speak to that, and we will continue to take next steps. So, having said that, I will kind of bring our familiar, our guest, Art Mobley of the Darfur 23. And for the listening audience, let me talk a little bit about how the Darfur 23 emerged. Back in roughly around 2005, 2006, all over the news, from one end of the world to the other, was a large propaganda campaign going on concerning the Sudan. And when the West links up with France, America, Israel, then you know it's going to be a problem, right? They want something. They want something, and in this case, they wanted something back, and that was called oil, right? So until we understand this one significant point about white power is that it is protracted. They pass it on from generation to generation. They pass it on from administration to administration. They don't care whether they're Democrats or Republicans. The talking points, the game plan, the playbook is passed on from the Clinton administration, in this case, to the Bush administration, to the Obama administration, so on and so on and so on. This is the way they work. They are simply here to maintain and sustain the status quo. And what is the status quo? Worldwide white power. All right. So, having said that, Darfur 23 emerges as a group of Africans in America headed over to Sudan to engage with the Sudanese people, not only on the ground from the grassroots perspective in Darfur. We also found ourselves in the presidential palace meeting with His Excellency Oman Hassan al-Bashir. We met with the rebel leaders. We met with the vice president of the South, who was now or then became the president when Barack Obama oversaw white hegemony, and that was the split up of the Sudan in 2011. They're all on the same team. Don't get caught up in that. They are all on the same team, right? So we wanted to get and gather our data on exactly what was going on. And we were able to do a fact-finding mission for upwards of 3 weeks, come back and launch what Dr. Khalid Muhammad called a proper propaganda campaign, right? To tell the story straight, to get it straight. So that there will be no confusion about how we documented exactly what was going on. And we were able to change the narrative. So that's how the Darfur 23 emerged. One of the things, and I'd like for you to start off this conversation with our brother from Africa and introduce him, is that what happened there and what I came back to Black organizations with, particularly the revolutionary organizations in this country, was that we could play a part as Africans in the diaspora, and particularly in the belly of the beast, as it relates to peace and justice conflicts on the African continent. They were listening to us, right? We took a neutral stance. We don't have a play in the game other than the fact that we're anti-West, anti-that, right? Anti-white domination, right? So that message was hard to receive, not only in some trusted spaces in the Black revolutionary fronts that are in the United States. Maybe they weren't ready at that time. But the African diaspora has to play a part in the engagement as we move forward to free our motherland. And as we free the motherland, as Kwame Ture said, then the rest of Africa will follow. So having said that, Brother Art, if you can introduce our guest, and we can dive into this topic.
Thank you, brother. I hope that everyone can hear me all right. And I have a pleasure of knowing and working with our guest tonight, or one of our guests tonight. His name is Adrian Atim Abako, and he is from Cameroon. He has been very, very vocal and is an important emerging voice among youth throughout Africa, but throughout the Sahel region, and certainly Cameroon specifically. So we're going to talk to him in just a moment, and you'll find him very vibrant and very helpful to just understanding some of the ground rules of what's going on in Africa. And he too has been very involved in areas of the continent like Mali and Burkina Faso. And we've had some collective engagements there a couple of years ago, and also in Guinea and Niger. And he can tell you more about that when we link in just a second. But I wanted to start with a little bit of geography, because this is why Africa is in the challenge, or has the challenges that it does have. You mentioned white supremacy and its domination, and certainly that's what colonialism was all about. This goes back to colonialism. We are, again, moving beyond colonialism. We're moving beyond even the non-alignment movement that really governed a lot of African policy and perspective over the last 30 or 40 years. We attempted to try and be non-aligned. They are certainly dogmatic about preventing us from being non-aligned. So when you push people to a point of not being able to be even non-aligned, you force them into reacting a little bit more harshly to you. And that's why in Malik's introduction, he talked about the complete rejection of white domination and European domination and Western domination. Don't care about stepping on toes, smash toes. That's what we're here for. But I'd like to introduce Mr. Bucko. And brother, how you doing? Can you hear us?
He's on mute.
Okay. You're muted, brother. Please unmute yourself if you can do that. We can't hear you yet. You're still on mute. Okay. Well, hopefully he will get that audio corrected and check in.
He unmuted himself, but for some reason I can't hear him.
Oh, okay. Well, like I said, he will correct that. He's a veteran at this as well. And but getting back to our geography situation, could you put up that slide number 3, brother? Here we go. And this slide represents some of the geographical problems and challenges that Africa has, but some of the realities that Africa is in fact in. This map shows an overlay of the US, China, India, all of Europe, Britain, and you can see that Africa is a massive continent, and we don't put into perspective sometimes how large the continent is and what that means. But of course, it was colonized by the European powers, and that colonization is presenting a serious problem that we are faced with and suffering from in terms of challenges yet today. If we could go to slide number 4 would be helpful. Okay, this gives you some perspective just on a flat map. If you flatten the world out, this is what the world sized geographical areas of each country is. On a flat map, it's much easier to see and understand. So you see that Canada and the US are about the same size. Russia and China are about the same size. I don't have a pointer here. I would show you, and I hope you've got a little bit of geography 101 so you understand where we're going. But you also see Africa there in the center. And even though it's broken up into 54 different nation states, you see the size of the African continent. And we were talking last week about how important size is in terms of power. If I asked you to give me the 5 most powerful countries in the world, you would say the US and China and Russia and possibly India and Canada, Australia. And you can see on this map, if you're familiar at all with those points of geography, that those are very large spaces. Everything else in the world is broken up into smaller pieces. The smaller you are territorially, the less power you have, the less significant you are. The only exception is Europe. And Europe is several small countries, but they had the sanity to band together in a European Union, which makes them a significant power geographically. So geography matters. It's very important, and it is the basis for the challenges we face, but also it's the basis of the solutions to our problem. I want to see if Mr. Abako did he get his audio corrected? Are you there, brother Atim?
Yeah, he's here, but
Still can't
he's
hear
not.
him. Okay.
I don't see the mute on this thing, but it's not responding.
Should we have him reconnect with that?
Yeah, if that may help. Yeah.
Okay. Brother, if you can hear us, just hang up or reconnect and get us connected and linked back once again. And maybe that may fix the problem that you have. Hopefully it does, because he is a very important voice. And I think you will be able to share that point as well when he returns. So, Brother Malik, are we okay to time-wise and from a moderator point?
Yeah, we're fine. Quick question for you as we
Yes, sir.
The map. We see art in the mid 17th century, and then later kind of catapulted in the 19th century, the rise of the European nation state. They didn't embark in the 19th century, at the end of the 19th century, on this worldwide narrative and action of colonialism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Importing this European nation state concept on Africa. Can you talk a little bit about what was Africa vis-a-vis the nation, or the lack of the nation state prior to colonialization, and in that context, how this nation state concept is obviously creating a problem right now in Africa.
Okay, let's go to slide 5, if we could do that. And this map shows what the colonization of Africa looks like, what it looked like, but it's also indicative of where the continent is today. That particular slide coming up shows what colonial possessions the French had, the British have, the Italians and the Germans, et cetera, et cetera. At the Berlin Conference, of course, they divided Africa up and created this map that we're looking at. And you see the green areas are the Francophone countries. They were the countries that were colonized by France. The orange ones are those that the British came in and essentially took over by force in all of these situations. Every country on this map, with the exception of Ethiopia, was militarily conquered. And they did this one by one. And that's, again, the significance of having geographical cookie cutter, smaller countries to deal with. If you understand how that kind of manipulation is easier when you have smaller countries to deal with, you can certainly landlock a lot of them. But you see that in the green countries, for example, those are the Francophone countries, the ones that the French had control of. They were given those in Berlin. They then sent armies in. You remember the old cartoons and the many different movies that we saw based on the French Foreign Legion. Those were the mercenaries from France that went into Africa. They were always parked out there in the sand with their little pillbox hats, with the napkin on the back of their heads, Lawrence of Arabia, and the many, many different depictions of those particular soldiers and mercenaries. They were dispersed across Africa and were very brutal. This is again, is also symptomatic of something that continues in Africa, continues to this day. The French, even though they have granted independence to most of those countries that are in green, that independence is in military respect only. It is not in an economic sense. All of those countries share in what's called the CFA franc, for example, which is a currency that the French specially designed to be used by those African states and is still being used by those African states. That currency is printed in France. Still 85% of the gross domestic product from each one of those countries is by law and by mandate deposited into the French central bank. And then African countries who only have the remaining 15% to utilize in their countries have to essentially run their countries and governments on. If they want any more money, they have to borrow it at excessive interest rates from the French central bank. So you have situations like this. Similar situations go on in also the Anglophone countries. Those are the orange countries that Britain controls, and German countries were in purple, and you've got Italian are the red countries, and the green countries were, or the light or the darker blue countries rather, were Spain, and then Portugal had a few countries. So you see from what we're saying, Africa was really divided up, and Europe has continued to survive and build wealth off of these. These are the holdings that they have in Africa. They, of course, have holdings all over the world, but these are the ones that they have in Africa that they soon will have to unincorporate from.
Yeah. Yeah, and before we bring our guest in, looks like he's back on from Cameroon. One thing I want to note here to the audience, if you ever, two things. The first thing is you look at this map that we have posted. It is not a historical map of Africa. Don't get confused. I'm a historian. I hold letters in history, African history in particular, and we talk about the great empires of Ghana, Mali, Sudan, Kush, Egypt. It's not reflected in today's map. Throw that out of your heads when we talk about the historical and traditional Africa. One of the big problems that emerges from the Berlin Conference, and these Europeans sat down in Europe, in Berlin, and they carved up not only Africa, but the entire Muslim world. They had total disregard to historical boundaries and foundation, and particularly tribes. Peace treaties that were negotiated and in place for centuries, totally decimated. Particularly if you go to look at the British and Sudan, this was the key issue in Darfur. These kind of maps that were drawn and the boundaries that were drawn during colonialism.
They were drawn by the colonizers, and for that purpose, and they still serve that purpose. These are not the boundaries that Africa had drawn. It really were no boundaries in Africa. So that's the whole point. If we can get Africa back to a standard of being just a few regional countries on the continent, or in the best case scenario, the entire continent united under possibly the Federation of African States, which is what Kwame Nkrumah envisioned, or some people have talked about the United States of Africa, and keeping those boundaries that are there and turning those nations into states. But let's bring on Brother Abako. Did we get his audio corrected? Can you hear us, brother? Can we hear you is more important.
Yeah, it seems like his audio is.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Yeah. So
Something sound.
as he works with his audio art, the second point I wanted to make for the listening audience, what happened at the Berlin Conference in 1884 was a European revolution. And to understand the significance and the depths of it and how it still affects us today, if you have any doubt that this was a revolution of white supremacy, then I simply will ask you, if you're confused about this, look around the world in your mind's eye, look at the peoples in any section of the world and see what language they speak. Then you would know how the Europeans dominated from this conference. This is a white supremacist move, a big play on the chessboard. Why do you have people who are Maya, the Aztecs? Why are they speaking Spanish? Just in North America. Why? Why in Guatemala when they speak Spanish? You want to know why? It is because of European domination, white power. Okay. Why are the people in North America from one end of it to the other? Why are they speaking English? Oh, by the way, if you go to the Eastern Province in Canada, they speak French. Why the Western Province speaks English and they call themselves British Columbia. This is worldwide white domination, white power at its finest. And once you understand that and kind of see the world from that perspective, you'll understand what we're dealing with. We're not dealing with no Democrats or Republicans. We're dealing with white power, worldwide white power that has to be brought down.
Absolutely. And Brother Abako is, I think, made some corrections. Are you okay? We still can't hear him. Still don't have your audio. Is there a number that he can call in directly to perhaps Ghana to see if there might be some way to correct that?
I think the best way, all right, real quick, to troubleshoot that, if you call him on your phone, and we can hear the audio.
Right.
Okay.
Your computer.
All right. Let me do that right now and see if I can get him in. And yeah, brother, just getting back to what you were saying about the Berlin Conference there, I think is also very important to to mention that the whole discussion around reparations is a trap and a trick that we will have to discuss. We might have to dedicate a whole show to this conflict that seems to be a ongoing conflict between, or at least it's projected as such, between foundational African Americans and African people versus the Caribbean, and this whole flare up that's come. Let me see if I got Mr. Abako on my phone. Can you hear me, brother? Okay, we've got a way to solve this. I'm gonna call you directly on my cell phone and put you on speaker, and we'll make it work that way. I will call you right back. I'm gonna hang up on you, but I'm gonna call you right back. And
while you calling them right back, you mentioned some dirty words, foundation. American and ADOS.
Yeah. It is very frustrating, but I
have a prediction about this. The same thing I predicted, 5 years ago with this emergence of these YouTube superstars talking about black this, black that, when they had no organization, they had no foundation, they had no context, they had no citing of their research. They just kind of appeared, right? And I said, watch them fight like rappers, because all of them using fake names, right?
Well, they're also, a lot of them are bots, are put up to this, probably put up to it by supremacist organizations and colonial organizations that are just trying to okey doke and precipitate some conflict.
Yeah.
And like I said, we could do a whole show on that, But and I think it would be, it'd be a little sensational and, fit into that category of, just being a little, advantageous and taking advantage of the traps and tricks on social media. I don't want to go there, and I know you don't. But if we're not careful, it's really based or bedrocked, and people get sucked into it because of reparations. One group doesn't want the other group to share in the reparations that they get. When reparations happen, they will have to happen for all Black people all over the world. And the reason I say that is, in order to extract slaves from Africa, there needed to be war. And that war caused a heavy toll on the continent. And no one wants to pay reparations for what happened to the African continent. Of course they do. And that's why we're looking at these maps. That's why we're going back to the Berlin Conference. That's why we're going back to these people who have principally been responsible for what's happened historically. And we're going to use every means necessary to make sure that everybody, the entire world, is repaid. And the number one way, you can't even talk about reparations until you talk about giving land back to those it was stolen from. So, of course, the easiest place for us to start that conversation is with the entire African continent. The entire African continent belong to a people, and they are identifiable people, and those people should be repaid first with their land. You take my land, and then you want to pay me? You can't buy my land. You can only pay me some dollars to recover some of the things operationally I might need to do with that land, but you can't have the land. I mean, the land is way more valuable than the rest of what's going on. But we want to take that out of the conversation.
Yeah. So exactly. As Art brings on our guest from Cameroon, I just want to reset. You're listening to the Muslim Street Podcast. Sunday night at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, along with myself. I'm sitting in for our co-host, Dr. Issa White, who will be back with us next week. By the Landscurve Show from Ghana and West Africa. And again, you can find us at www.themuslimstreet.com. We're here with Art Mobley of Darfur 23 and his guest from Cameroon. You want to introduce him? Did we get audio yet?
Yes, I got Mr. Obako on the line from Arizona. How you doing, brother? All the way from Cameroon.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm doing fine. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Can we hear in the studios back in Ghana?
Yes.
Well, give us a mic check, brother. Just speak a little bit.
Yeah, loud and clear. I can hear all of you guys. I can hear you guys.
Okay.
Gonna have to hold it a little closer to your mic, Brother Mobley.
I'll find my microphone on here. Is that any better? Speak, brother. Once again, just give us a 1, 2, 3, 4 count or something. Mr.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Here we testing 1, 2, 3, 4 again.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, it's a little muffled. The line is a little muffled. It should be clearer. We have WhatsApp to blame for that. But let's see if we can work with it.
If he's on a speakerphone, he's got to come off of it.
Okay.
I change my position.
Yeah, maybe if you can go straight phone line, it might be clearer.
Yeah.
If you're on a headpiece.
You can't be on a speakerphone.
This option works better. This option, I don't know why it wasn't going through. Let me try again.
Okay, let's see if we can get the line established, and we'll continue on the Muslim Street.
Is it okay now?
We hear you, but it is muffled. You got a little bit of just noise in your audio there, but we're gonna keep trying. We need you on, brother.
Is it okay now?
Is it what?
Is it okay now?
Arthur, you have to put the phone closer to wherever your mic is.
Yeah.
And if he's on a speakerphone, he's got to come off of it.
Okay, you're not on a speakerphone, are you?
Yeah, I'm on speakerphone.
Okay, come off. Get off of your speakerphone if you can just be straight in.
Okay, is it okay now?
Oh, perfect. Now here we go. All right.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Welcome to the show. I know you were anxious to get in here, but please share with us. And I've introduced you profusely, but let's talk a little bit about from your perspective how you see the Pan-African movement and its ability to interface with Africans on the ground, on the continent, and we'll start there.
The first thing I want to contribute is Pan-Africanism. It's all about the unification of Africa, and that is in the respect of diaspora returning back to Africa, having a passage where Africa can be a home for all the diaspora. And an African which is receptive, which has come to a full maturity and understanding that we have a diaspora out there, and there is no unification or unity of Africa without the Africans in the diaspora, which means that this is a vision of the founding fathers who were taken out of Africa that sought to return back to an Africa which has come to an understanding, which has systems, structures, leaders, governments in place which have built policies to entertain and to welcome back our diaspora, because that's the key priority to the restoration of Africa. The diaspora has to come back, or we have to build synergy and unity with our diaspora in order for us to build our social development and our economic development, in order for us to push further our own culture, identity, our own traditions, our own way of life as Africans. But you did mention about the reparations. You see, that is a very technical topic, because that topic has to actually be addressed by the grassroots organizations as far as the reparations are concerned. Because if you look at, you did talk about the lands as well, and land grabbing. Honestly speaking,
we're losing your audio again, brother.
Did you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Say again. You said land grab. You were talking about the land grabbing.
I'm saying that it has to be a collective movement.
Yes.
That means that not only the diaspora that is going to be making a campaign or putting up a campaign for reparations. We need to have one voice. We need to come to a place where we all speak the same language. So it's like, this is not about the diaspora. This is not about the African at base. This is a whole movement of a people, of a race that have stood up for justice, for equity, and for reparations. Now, we will not, as far as the grassroots organizations are concerned, and people like us who have a voice in Africa and around the diaspora, we will not accept reparations be paid either in euro or in dollars. It has to be paid in gold. It should never be paid in any other currency that has been brought by the Westerners. It must be paid in gold. The land grabbing cannot be exchanged for money. There's no land that gives value, that there's a currency that actually would compensate for those lands, because, to be honest, they are in control of the currencies. They are the ones producing the currency that we as a people are using. We don't have a currency. So we cannot go by the game of them using to pay us either in dollars or in euro. No, that's not what we want. We want, if they took natural resources away from us, we need back natural resources. If they took human resources away from us, we need back the human resources. We are not going to betray our founding fathers. We are not going to take money for human resources. We are not going to take money for natural resources. We are going to take natural resources for natural resources. So we have to come to a point where we all speak the same language, which is why our campaign in building alliances with the diaspora in order for us to build an Africa, sensitize the masses of the African people that we as Africans living in Africa, we cannot succeed in such a way that Africa can be that dreamland that we all dream of without our diaspora. So there is a moment where we are right now, we are in an era where the African at base are reaching out to the Africans in the diaspora. There was a time in the days of back in Marcus Garvey where the diaspora was reaching back the African at base. But now the times have changed. We are the ones reaching out to the diaspora to respond to the call of the ancient diaspora who brought Panafricanism to Africa. So we need this
brother Atom. Brother, can you define diaspora for us?
How do we go about it? Africans today, the majority of the youth of Africa, who makes the majority close to about 80%, have come to a point where we understand that the Western structures and systems are not for the good of the African people. Therefore means if we can start introducing a new way to our people, then they will have a sense of leadership. They will have a sense of direction, like we saw in Mali, like we saw in Burkina Faso, like we saw in Niger, and like we saw in which you have this
Guinea and Niger.
Just slip out of my mind. So
yes.
We have about 4, 5 to 6 countries in Africa which are building this synergy of a new reign and a new breed of leaders and a new system of leadership, which is not democracy. It has nothing to do with the democratic system. So this is what the dying problem right now of the African people is our unity. Because we have now come to a point with the social media, we can all relate. I mean, we can travel with Africa out of Africa for you guys to see Africa. I mean, the world today now has become a global village where we can all come to a common understanding because we know that we all do have a common problem. And this will take our unity in order for us to build unity to solve this problem. It is very important in the aspect that many of us as African people do not know our history, not even the diaspora. To frankly speaking, we ask ourselves that China was colonized, America was colonized, India was colonized, but why is the case of the African people special? Now, this goes way back to the beginning of time, which is stated clearly that no power can exalt itself as a ruler in this world if it does not take power from Africa. So the aspect of the colonialism in Africa is so vital to the West if they have to survive and succeed.
Yes.
They have to keep the African people who are the heirs of this earth that God created. So we are not just other race. We are the mother and the father race of all humanity. So in order for the West to rule or America to rule, they all rule from Africa. We have Africans leaving Haiti going to America. We have Africans leaving Africa going to America. We have African Americans who are still living in segregation and racism. They live as foreigners everywhere. Even in Africa, we live like foreigners. Why? Because they are ruling the world from Africa. How do they rule the world from Africa? Through first our human resources and our natural resources. The natural resources is secondary, but the primary is our human resources.
Brother,
that simply means
brother, let me interrupt you.
You have to be the machines behind
brother Atem.
movement of their vision.
Brother Atem. Brother, he can't hear me. He's probably got the phone down.
For example, you remember at the period of when America went to our
Brother, can you hear me? Brother, hello. Hey, brother, yes. Yeah, can you hear me? I wanted to just get you to break a second. I wanted to ask you, what do you mean when you say the diaspora? what are you including in your explanation of the diaspora? And I think that Malik also had a question. Malik, did you have a question that you wanted to?
No, I'll wrap up with something a little later on that attached to something he discussed earlier.
Okay, but please, brother, define what you mean when you say diaspora, because we don't want to leave anyone confused on that point. I know what.
Did we lose him? Did we lose him? All right. I think Lance, did we lose Art?
No, Art's right here.
There we go.
Yeah.
I apologize. Okay. All right, brother. We're back. Want to please start again, brother Tim.
Yeah. The diaspora are the Africans due to, in the period of the transatlantic slave trade, that were taken out of Africa. A chunk of these brothers, fathers, sisters that are out there in the diaspora who are like foreigners and don't have a land to call for their own. Now, from the voices of our ancestors, it is never be united without our diaspora. Important.
Okay, I think we.
With Africa, the diaspora is a fulfillment of the unity, the unification of Africa, or the United States, not without the diaspora. So, from the vision of our founding fathers of Kwame Nkrumah, those visions were all taken from great Marcus Garvey. So, the OAU, which is the AU, was this unification of uniting Africa for one reason, so that our diaspora can come back home, so that they can be identified, they can have an identity and a place they can call home, and their resources in order to develop and to push their own civilization. Which is why I said that this is very important for us to understand as a race, that we were colonized, but our own colonization is completely unique, which is why the church was involved. We must know why the church was involved in the transatlantic slave trade, because they were the ones who revealed the secret of imperialism. You cannot be a capitalist, or you cannot promote white supremacy, or you cannot rule the world if you don't come to Africa. Practically impossible. From the beginning of time, it's all clear. So when we talk about Panafricanism, we talk of restoring back the order in which humanity is supposed to function. And it can only be from Africa, which is why you see in a time a leader, a young man like Ibrahim Traoré, is a clear example of what leadership is supposed to be in the world. We have never known of colonizing people. We don't cheat people. We don't steal from people. We don't go about possessing and conquering land. No, that is not in our nature as African people. So these things which I explained to you people about Pan-Africanism is way deeper than just reparations, than just taking back land. This is us ruling the world, because in real time, or in reality, the blacks are the one who has made America what it is. The brain behind America and the foundation in which America is standing upon is on the back of our people.
Yes, sir.
Which is why they will never let them get up there, because they need their energy, they need their brains, they need their giftings and talents in order to make America what it is today. If we take
absolutely, brother.
Brother, the United States of America, that will be the end of that kingdom. That will be the fall of Babylon.
Absolutely, so brother. Listen. We're running a little low on time, brother. Excuse us.
Subject matter.
Hey, Atim. Hello, brother. Are you there?
We must understand that.
Yes, sir. Hey, listen, I want to just break in a second.
And the Africans in the diaspora to have one voice.
Brother, we do have one voice. Let's brother.
We used to understand that this
brother,
way of leadership in Africa has failed us completely. Thereby, we need to start standing behind leaders who have the will and the mandate of the ancestors.
Okay, and brother, listen, I want to just get in a quick note here from Brother Malik, and brother, I know you got to just do a time check. You're listening to the Muslim Street. Jump in, and we want to continue. Very insightful information from this brother, as I mentioned, we would get.
Yeah, so absolutely. This is Muslim Street. You can find us on www.themuslimstreet.com. We're here every Sunday night, 7:30 Eastern, to the Muslim Street podcast, where we have engaging revolutionaries as we continue to build this movement. One of the things, Art, that and Lance, that you heard our guest say from, and this is a constant that goes on in the terminology of propaganda, is they use the term transatlantic slave trade. This is not the transatlantic slave trade. It's the European slave trade. You want to know why? Because they're the only ones that benefited from it, right? It is historically correct that we term in revolutionary speak what it is. They hide behind transatlantic as if the water benefited, the oceans benefited. No. This was the European slave trade, and we have to call it what it is. So one of the things that I want to thank our guests for coming on from Cameroon. We have to have that brother back as we engaged and moved toward revolutionary building. Today, September 7th, is the end date of a conference that took place, Art, back in 2001. This was the United Nations World Conference Against Racism. It was held in Durban, South Africa. And we celebrate today, as the end of that conference was September 7th, and its anniversary, 24 years, is the Durban 400. It was the Durban 400 that was made up of the National Black United Front, led by Dr. Conrad Worrell, Dr. Oberto Shaka, and others, who also collectively organized with the December 12th movement and its international secretariat to convene on this conference in South Africa to bring before the world at this seminal moment this whole declaration of the European slave trade and as slavery as a crime against humanity. This became a particular note and theme that was pushed at the conference. And also at the conference, the Durban 400 pushed this whole concretization of reparations as is owed to African people, not only in the African continent, but also the diaspora. At this conference 24 years ago, and we sit on its anniversary of September the 7th as they closed this conference, the Durban 400. They were able to collectively put the narrative behind what the reparations movement should look like. And that reparation movement looks like, as we defined it there, as the collective between the African continent, whose labor, whose people, whose talents were drained off the African continent to feed this European slave trade. They are the ones that prospered in South America. 66 million African people now reside in Brazil, and they speak Portuguese. Right? We have over 40 million African people who reside in the United States who speak English, who don't know their names, who don't know the religions that they practice, who don't know the culture that they practice, the mores, none of it, right? The whole foundation to our value system gone. And at that conference, which today, again, that we celebrate its anniversary, the Durban 400 was able to bring those issues to the forefront. That reparations are owed to African people in the diaspora and on the continent of Africa. And this is where we move forward, So it's not a case where, since Garvey, that didn't happen. We saw what happened in 1945 at the Fifth Pan-African Congress with Padmore and as well as Dr. Du Bois, who put pressure on the world as related to this question of colonialism. And it wasn't an accident that 15 years later, in 1960, we saw over 2/3 of Africa in 1960 get the independence from the European oppressors. And that was due to what happened in 1945. The Africans couldn't contribute to that conference. Why? Because they wanted the pressure of colonialism. And that's why we're linked as a people. We're always linked as a people. So I just want to, as we move to the last 3 minutes of our program, Art, I'll leave you with the last words on our guest from Cameroon. I want to thank him for coming on. And we have to do a part 2 on this, Art.
Absolutely. And just wanted to say on your parting points there, we had the conference at Casablanca and Monrovia where Africa did step to the fore and organize on the front line for Black people all over the world so that there was movement towards that independence movement that you spoke of. And collectively, certainly we share in our ability to address the same problem, but we can have more points of intersection than 1 or 2. We can have 10, we can have 20. And before we go here, I wanted to just defer back to Brother Abako in just a short time that we have to talk about. He was talking about something very strategic, and we're talking about what's going on in the Sahel right now. But brother, can you give us a quick prognosis on where we're going in Burkina Faso and Mali and Guinea?
We got 2 minutes left, Art. 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay. You there, brother? Go ahead.
All right, thank you. The whole concept is to spread that same revolution in the entire African continent. I'm sure you've heard a lot from Brother Touare Ibrahim, and you've seen how he's been calling out to the Africans in the Caribbean and the Africans in America and the Africans worldwide in order to come together and build their motherland as a people and to defend their integrity and the right to self-determination and to hold the vision of their founding fathers. This is what we are going to push in the entire Africa. And it started off from Mali, and we have seen that they've been able to build synergy, touch one, touch all, just like NATO. And we are now mobilizing our youth and increasing the volume of their understanding to understand that when we see a leader, we should be able to decide our own way of how they're coronating or choosing our leaders to represent us at the level of our national interest as a people to enter into the leagues of the African nations.
Okay.
So this is our campaign and this is our vision, is to make sure that the same thing we saw in Mali is going to happen in Cameroon. The same thing that we saw in Burkina Faso is going to happen in Nigeria. So we are gearing towards that direction.
Great.
The first thing is creating that awareness. And we are sure at this point that at least our youths are being mobilized and we have a way forward. So it's just a point of identifying a leader, and when it's time, push the leader into a place of decision making, and then you have your nation all to yourself, and you people can make your decision, and you can build your alliances where the diaspora are the priority in your economic and social development.
Okay, brother. Listen, thank you so much for that, and we appreciate you joining us, number one, but appreciate your opinion, your perspective, because it gives us a feeling where Africa is. And this is the Muslim Street. I'll toss it back to you, Malik, so that you can go ahead and do your wrap up.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. See you guys next week. Art, hidden topics and guests to move toward worldwide revolution.
Thank you.